I'm doing is legal. This is why I believe I'll receive justice in the higher court.
Used to hit more to right and right center than the left. Oh, it is good! He did it! He did it!
It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from. If you have dreams and you have goals, and that's all that really matters.
But there's only one Usain Bolt.
I owe, a lot to Charlie.
The freedom of expression that the entire world could see.
When you black, it's not a movement, it's a lifestyle. This is who we are.
An African-American, son of a sharecropper, grandson of slaves, overcame these incredible circumstances and delivered a performance for the ages.
That grandson of slaves was born James Cleveland Owens on September 12, 1913, in Oakville, Alabama. His performance for the ages will never be bettered. The youngest of 10 children, Owens was born into a typical Southern family of the time. When he was 9, his family joined the Great Migration, when 1.5 million African Americans left the segregated South for the urban and industrial North. For Owens, that meant trading Alabama for Ohio. After settling in Cleveland, Owens was asked his name by his new teacher. He gave his initials, J.C. But because of his strong Southern accent, the teacher heard Jesse, and the name stuck. Jesse Owens wasted little time demonstrating his extraordinary talent, breaking records at the high school level in the 100-yard dash, the 220-yard dash, and long jump. His skills were honed by Charles Riley, who began as his coach, but grew into a lifelong mentor. Riley wasn't the only lifelong partner Owens made at high school. He was just 15 when he met Ruth, his wife of 45 years. Owens' career progressed another level at Ohio State University, where he won a record 8 individual NCAA championships, 4 each in 1935 and 1936. During this period, he rose to prominence by breaking 3 world records and tying a 4th in a 45-minute spell now regarded as the most incredible performance in track and field history. At the Big Ten Finals in Ann Arbor, Michigan, he set new standards in the 220-yard dash, the 220-yard low hurdles, and the long jump.
I was fortunate enough tonight to break the world's record, first with the leap of 25 feet, 7 1/4 inches, and last with a leap of 25 feet, 9 inches, realizing some of my ambitions.
It was clear that Owens was the preeminent athlete in the world and primed to dominate the upcoming Olympic Games. But like many African Americans, he continued to face Jim Crow-era segregation and discrimination. Even while starring for the Buckeyes, Owens could not live in the same dormitories or eat in the same restaurants as his white teammates. The 1936 Games were held in a Germany under the rule of Adolf Hitler, and to his Nazi machine, the Games were a propaganda gift.
The propaganda that the Nazi Party wanted to put forward, which was centered in the idea that the Aryan race would perform in a superior way in those Olympics.
Consequently, the NAACP proposed a boycott. Owens considered his participation, but resolved to discredit ideas of racial inferiority on the track. "I wasn't running against Hitler. I was running against the world," he said. In the 100 meters, the blue ribbon event to establish the fastest man on the planet, Owens not only won gold, but equaled the world record in the process. And in second place ran Ralph Metcalfe, another African American. After the dash, Owens set new Olympic records in the 200-meter and long jump, before combining with Metcalfe to break the 4x100 relay world record. Hitler's poisonous rhetoric was exposed just 2 days into competition.
Jesse Owens broke that myth right at the start, capturing 4 gold medals in the Olympics and dominating track and field competition.
The 1936 Olympics may have begun as Hitler's games, but they ended as Owens. But when the most important athlete of his generation returned home, the American dream turned into a nightmare.
I wanted to come home, and I really did. After all, I haven't seen my wife for 3 months, and I'm very glad to be back home to see her.
Jesse Owens returned home from the 1936 Olympics a hero. But as an African American, he was denied the status of his white counterparts.
They had a ticker tape parade in New York, but he still had to go through the back door to go to a dinner that was given in his honor. He was black, and he had to go through the back door.
For all his greatness on the world stage, Owens returned to a country that persisted with barriers to the advancement of African American men and women.
The president did not invite him to the White House.
Owens said, "Hitler didn't snub me. It was our president who snubbed me. The president didn't even send me a telegram."
It's really shocking that he wasn't embraced for his accomplishments upon his return from the Olympics.
After the dust settled on Owens' triumphant Olympics, the married father of one turned his thoughts to providing for his young family.
Jesse Owens came back to a country where he could be a celebrated hero for what he accomplished in 1936, but he did not have an occupation that he could move into professionally that would further that career.
He continued racing, but as soon as he attempted to make money from his speed, he was stripped of his amateur status. It effectively ended his career. By 1937, he had drifted out of the limelight and was piecing together a living however he could. He was a gas station attendant, playground janitor, and manager of a dry cleaning firm. He was reduced to racing against thoroughbred horses in Cuba for cash. People say that it was degrading for an Olympic champion to run against a horse, but what was I supposed to do? I had 4 gold medals, but you can't eat 4 gold medals, Owens said. In 1939, just 3 years after the greatest athletic feat in history, he filed for bankruptcy.
He did what he could to provide for his family, and along the way he was befriended by Bill Bojangles Robinson, the famous entertainer, and Bojangles helped Owens get work in the entertainment field. They formed a lifelong friendship, and Owens gave him this medal out of gratitude and as a token of their friendship.
Owens took on ambassadorial roles after the war, but recognition of his place at the very summit of athletic achievement did not arrive until the 1970s, when Gerald Ford awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The majority of honors have arrived posthumously, following Owens' death from lung cancer in 1980, age 66. Such as in 2016, when the U.S. Olympic Committee created the Jesse Owens Olympic Spirit Award. Muhammad Ali, the inaugural recipient.
proud to accept this award, named in honor of Jesse Owens, a man who embodied the Olympic spirit and did so by transcending race, hatred, and politics with his athletic ability.
By the time the U.S. Olympic team returned from the Rio Games in 2016, the White House was not only welcoming of Owens' successors, there was a black president holding the front door open.
And I want to, as a consequence, take a minute to thank some people who paved the way to create that sense that we're in this together. We're honored to have here the legendary Tommy Smith and John Carlos here today. Proud of them. Near their statue hangs the cleats of the great Jesse Owens, what he wore in the 1936 games, so that every American can have a sense of the courage that he displayed. But it wasn't just Jesse, it was other African-American athletes in the middle of Nazi Germany under the gaze of Adolf Hitler that put a lie to notions of racial superiority, whooped them, and taught them a thing or two about democracy and taught them a thing or two about the American character.
The life of Jesse Owens is a story of African Americans in the 20th century. From the ashes of slavery in the South to de facto segregation in the North. From starring roles overseas to being hidden from view on home shores. A life defined by greatness, not appreciated fully until it ended. Until the extraordinary Usain Bolt arrived on the scene, it was taken for granted that Owens was the greatest sprinter in history. But comparing the two is impossible. Unlike Bolt, Owens wasn't backed by physiotherapists, coaches, and sports scientists to tailor his training and diet. Instead of cushioned athletic tracks, he ran on energy-sapping cinders, traveling the world with a lucky spade to dig out his footholds at the starting line. Bolt ran in space-age spikes that were practically weightless, with an army of support staff to ensure he was in peak physical condition for more than a decade. Owens accomplished all he could by the age of 23. At Bolt's peak, researcher Ross Tucker attempted to account for these disparities in a comparative analysis, and what he identified was surprising. Applying Owens' biomechanical data onto modern conditions, the margin between the two sprinters would not be the 0.7 of a second suggested by their personal bests, but less than a stride. Despite all the modern advantages available to Bolt, after 80 years of specialization and incremental improvements, the difference between him and Owens would be almost nothing. Who knows how fast Jesse Owens actually was? What we do know is that when the world needed him most, Jesse Owens was the best of us. Kylian Mbappé is admired the world over for his dazzling skills, electric speed, and eye for goal. His stardom arrived early, and it was confirmed in 2018 when he became only the second teenager after the legendary Pelé to score in a World Cup final. That same year, Paris Saint-Germain parted with the second highest transfer fee in football history to secure his services. But Mbappé is more than the latest flashy footballer off the conveyor belt, especially in the poorer neighborhoods of his homeland where he grew up.
He's a young man from the suburbs who made it, and we're proud, especially since he's currently the best player in the world. It fuels young people's dreams. It gives them hope.
Far from the Eiffel Tower, in suburbs like Banlieue, he represents hope for the marginalized residents who idolize him. While administrators laud his status as they battle to bring a sense of esprit de corps to France's multi-ethnic population.
As a black people, because we talk about Jordan, we talk about Johnson, Magic Johnson, we talk about many athletes, black athletes, and he's part of this generation who can inspire a new generation.
The French national football team has long offered a lens through which to view French society. The 1998 World Cup winning side, for example, was praised for being black blanc bleu, or black-white Arab. It relied on stars like Zinedine Zidane, with his Algerian heritage, and Guadeloupe-born, Paris-raised Liliane Thuram.
Sport helped me. When I arrived in the Paris area, the first time that no one judged about my skin color was when I played sports. You come as you are. If you're strong, you play. If you're not strong, you don't. But you can be as you are.
But despite these positive examples, tensions prevail in the suburbs. In 2005, the Banlieue erupted in riots against injustice and inequality, played out along race and class divides. Unrest has simmered ever since. And it is in these crucibles that many of the 2018 World Cup winning cohort were forged, including Mbappe.
One of the things we have to realize about football is that it's a mirror to society. It reflects what's going on in the streets, in the banlieues, the suburbs of Paris. There is conflict.
Of the 23-strong France squad that won the World Cup in Russia, 2/3 were of African or Arab descent, and 1/3 came from Paris's poorest suburbs. Along with Mbappe, the child of a father born in Cameroon and a mother with an Algerian background, there were the likes of Paul Pogba, N'Golo Kante, and Blaise Matuidi. Collectively, they demonstrated that the most brilliant football on the planet had its roots beyond France's borders, but was honed on the streets of the Banlieue.
This is really a moment I will never forget. It's a magical moment. A lot of emotions coming back here to the town where I grew up. I did nearly everything here, and to come back as a world champion is the greatest gift I could give myself.
But while Mbappe represents the best of the Banlieue and the power of football to bring societies together, such examples also run the risk of minimizing problems that still need resolving.
It's very nice. It's great proof of the suburbs' youth development, but it won't be enough. There still needs to be more investment. We have to believe in our youth, and we need to invest in them, but we're not there yet, I think.
But with Mbappe set for another decade at the top of the game, a light will continue to shine onto suburbs like Banlieue.
I hope that the children here today will one day have the opportunity to live such an incredible experience.
At first glance, Kylian Mbappe is the quintessential wealthy, globe-trotting modern footballer, but he represents much more. And his success is the success of millions of his compatriots battling for their own recognition. Katrina Adams is a boss. In 2015, she became president, chairman, and CEO of the United States Tennis Association. In the process, becoming the first former professional tennis player, first African American, and the youngest person to serve as president in the 135-year history of the organization. She led with style, inviting jazz legend Wynton Marsalis to commemorate the opening of the remodeled Louis Armstrong Stadium before the 2018 U.S. Open.
This beautiful new 14,000-seat stadium, complete with its own retractable roof, will provide our world-class U.S. Open players with another grand stage.
The legacy of tennis is also like that of jazz. Definitive players whose achievements remain inspirational as memories come from all over this planet. This is what we celebrate, and who better to celebrate it with than Louis Armstrong, someone who was at one point the most recognized and beloved person in the entire world. It is also fitting that this stadium stands on the grounds with Arthur Ashe Stadium. Arthur and Louis were both tireless champions of American civil rights, and Arthur absolutely loved jazz.
Adams was also on hand 2 years earlier to reveal the largest roof constructed over a tennis center anywhere in the world. It provided shelter to the center court at the U.S. Open, named in honor of another African-American pioneer, Arthur Ashe. Adams' impact as an administrator arrived after a successful playing career as a double specialist, often alongside another African-American, Zena Garrison. Adams won 20 double titles during the 1980s and 90s, but a Grand Slam eluded her. In a quirk of fate, her final defeat in singles before retirement was against Serena Williams, the player who has pushed the envelope furthest for female tennis players of color. Adams reflected on that transition of generations before the 2015 U.S. Open, when she had the honor of presenting the trophy to the winner of the women's singles.
Serena Williams is the greatest tennis player of all times, the greatest female athlete of all times, the greatest athlete of all time. If I'm presenting Serena the trophy in 2 weeks' time, it'll be the proudest moment of my career. My last singles loss was to Serena Williams in 1998. So to stand on that court knowing what I represent and knowing what she represents will be a very special moment for me.
As it turned out, Williams fell in the semifinals that year. But the potential of an African-American executive crowning an African-American player in a stadium honoring an African-American pioneer was powerfully symbolic. The sport of tennis has not always been an easy home for athletes from minority backgrounds. But thanks to leaders like Katrina Adams breaking down barriers and establishing new norms, the future looks far more colorful.